The governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves, recently signed into law a first of its kind bill that creates $3.5 million in tax credits for individuals and businesses to use in support of donations for nonprofit pregnancy resource centers and crisis pregnancy centers throughout the state. Now, during the signing of the Pregnancy Resource Act, Governor Reeves talked about efforts to find new ways to defend the right to life and how being more pro-life is about being more than just being anti-abortion.
As I said in my State of the State this year, being pro-life is about more than just being anti-abortion. We must take all available avenues to build a culture of life.
You see, and I think Mississippi is modeling how states should go forward. Now, recall that the Dobbs case that is before the Supreme Court right now came out of Mississippi. It was their 16-week ban on abortion, their pro-life law that made its way all the way to the Supreme Court. That decision is going to come down any day. Now, Mississippi's not waiting for that. They're modeling what it looks like in a post-Roe world, and that is meeting the needs of women who find themselves in unwanted or crisis pregnancies. Joining me now to talk about what his state is doing to build this culture of life is the governor of Mississippi, Tate Reeves. Governor, welcome back to the program.
Hello, Tony. Thanks for having me on, as always.
Well, let's start first. Just describe what the Pregnancy Resource Act does and how it works.
Well, it's actually a program that creates $3.5 million of tax credits such that individuals and businesses that choose to can make those contributions to the 37 pregnancy crisis centers around our state. And this will provide the necessary funding for those individual crisis centers so that they can then provide services to those individual moms that, as you mentioned, some of whom are in crisis pregnancies and some of whom are not. And so what we did once we went through the Dobbs case and heard the oral arguments, we knew then that it was very important in Mississippi that we show the way that we lead when it comes to setting up a scenario in a post Roe v. Wade world. And so that's one of the things that we're working very hard towards. We started by identifying a map of Mississippi and then figuring out exactly where these crisis centers are located. We identified 37 of them, and so they're in every single region of our state. We have 82 counties in Mississippi, and so we have approximately one for every 3 counties. We think that needs to expand, and we think with additional funding, such as this particular tax credit, that we can see more and more of those. But again, it's all about creating that culture of life, recognizing that that some individual expected mothers perhaps become expected mothers with, and it's not their plan, and that we as a society, we as people of Mississippi, and quite frankly, we as Christians need to find ways to make sure that we offer as much support as possible for those expected mothers.
So, Governor, does this kind of work like the educational scholarship fund where people can kind of earmark a portion of their tax liability to go toward these crisis pregnancy centers?
That is exactly the concept, Tony. It allows for individuals and businesses to make those contributions, and then they get a dollar-for-dollar tax credit on any state tax liability that they owe. So that way, it's money that is never actually received by the state, and so it actually is money that is contributed to primarily charitable organizations. Most of these 37 pregnancy centers are C3s, and therefore you can make those contributions and you get a tax credit on any state tax liability that you might owe.
And we know across the country there's about 2,500, 3,000 of these clinics across the country that are serving men, women, and children. and the return that local communities get and states get in terms of, as you said, they're all privately funded, so it's not a burden on the state. I think this is a great model, Governor, going forward. Of Mississippi could be the state that causes Roe to be relegated to the dustbin of history, but you're already paving the way forward in how we need to operate in a post-Roe world. And I just have to say, I commend you, Governor, for your leadership.
Well, thank you. We think that's very important. We clearly are leading the way. We passed the ban on abortions at 15 weeks that is before the United States Supreme Court in the Dobbs case. But we also argued in that case that we believe that Roe v. Wade was incorrectly ruled upon. We believe that the justices got it wrong some 50 years ago. And because of their wrong decision, some 62 million American babies have been aborted. And therefore, we think it's incredibly important that we went before the court and that we asked them to overturn Roe. But we also believe that if we're going to create a culture of life, that creating that culture of life is about more than just being anti-abortion. Being pro-life is about more than just being anti-abortion. This is a both and. We believe we are anti-abortion, but we also believe that we need to provide help and we need to provide resources. And quite frankly, we need to provide counseling to those expectant mothers. And what you saw in that clip that you showed earlier when I did my press conference signing the bill into law is you saw a lot of people that were standing behind me that really, really care about those moms and those potential moms. And they really want to help them provide for their babies and provide resources for those newborn babies, but also the moms as well. And that's really, I think, what the Bible calls upon us to do as Christians.
I think you're absolutely right. And there is an army, a compassionate army out there ready to serve, and you're teeing it up for them, Governor. Look forward to more creative ideas coming out of Mississippi, and I hope other states will follow suit. Governor, always great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks as always. Have a great day.